All right, everybody. I'm welcoming three guests today to our podcast, and I'm going to let you guys each talk about yourselves. We have Tiffany Tilburg Booher, right? Am I saying that right?
You can just say Booher. Yeah.
Okay, from Ohio, and she's with Inspire Dance and Tumble. And we have Tessa Madrigal Gusmer. Am I saying that right?
Yes, thanks, Mindy.
Yeah, from Andover, and she's with Urban Dance Production, and her brother, they're together, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
It's okay. My name is Ben Madrigal, and
Yeah.
that's basically it. Yeah. So yeah, we both own Urban Dance Productions with our parents.
Yeah.
When we started in 2018, and now we're here in 2024. So yeah.
You're 24. That's amazing. So well, Tiffany had asked the question. Basically, Tiffany, if you want to kind of say it again, otherwise I can say it. But the question, I love to do podcasts on actual questions that people have. And yours was about your kids getting to more of an elite level. Maybe just talk about it and we can expound on it. Is that okay? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Sure. Oh, no, it's fine. So we are in year 16 and we really started from scratch. We're in a very rural area that has, had never had anything dance before. And so we've really had to build, and also not always easy to get teachers that have a lot of experience or certifications. And we've been lucky to find some good ones. But so now in year 16, we're to the point where our dancers are getting really good. We've built the foundation, and we just can't seem to get them over the hump. Like they're lacking precision. They're still sloppy. They can do the tricks, they can do the advanced choreography, but we just can't seem to get them together. And so our process has been, do it again, do it again, do it again. And I have one particular teacher that's really tough on them. She loves them and they know that, but she's really tough. And we had a really tough practice the other night, and just having kids like wanting to quit. And it just seems like whenever we push them really hard, then they just kind of crumble. And so just trying to figure out what is the best way to push them really hard, but keep them loving dance and them knowing we love them.
Right. Oh, that's an awesome question. And I have so many thoughts on that I could talk about, but I'll let Tessa and Ben, if you want to expound on that at all.
Yeah. So because kind of giving background kind of into the answer kind of somewhat of the question, we started in 2016 and we opened, and Minnesota's a big area for huge dance studios. I mean, the dance community is it's insane. There's so much of it, and it's great because there's something for everyone. Mm-hmm. But we kind of had to figure out what was that something that because we just fell within this, like you kind of you did too, like we started from scratch, and we're like, we're going to do the rec program, we're going to do this, and we're going to have a competition team, and our production has to be in columns of, and then all these people. And it was like this thing that we grew up in that we felt as though needed to be what made a dance studio. And so COVID happened, obviously, and there was a lot of like refocus and reset that we had to do on our end, in the sense of like, this is like bigger picture for more individuals, because once they graduate, it's the whole like, I don't know if I want to dance anymore, what are the other opportunities? So we have kids that are we have a dancer at Berkeley, she goes to Boco, she's getting her dance degree. I have a dancer at NYU, I have dancers on dance teams. Like it's one of those things where it's like, I think once we started to refocus and reset like the bigger picture for them, I think that's when, okay, there are more options. And it's not just, because there are kids, and we tell the kids this all the time, like there are kids that get to the point once they graduate where like, you don't have to be a professional dancer, you don't have to take this dance team. Yeah, you don't have to do this dance thing anymore, but the life lessons that we're giving you can go in as simple as a job, as simple as being a good friend, as simple as like these lifelong skills we want to teach them that we really hone in on. It's like, I think once we've started to open and kind of reconfigure that idea of like what makes you here like valuable in this time, I think they started to almost see like almost like their lens kind of became a little less foggy, because I think it's just I graduated in 2012. And so for me, it was like, that was the end of like the era of like where kids, we were at the studio from like the minute we got off of school until 10, 11 at night. We were there 5-6 days a week, and these kids are here not as much of that I mean, I'd say the schedule's close, ours is,
Yeah.
but it's not as extensive as some of these
Not as
kids.
rigorous,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I'm trying to, like, you know, you can't really tell them, like, as we could tell them as much as we want to, like, you guys, you know, like, you guys imagine being in our time and, you know, all these things like that. And then when we started to kind of implement a lot of like what we used to do, or like our teachers were very personable with us. So it came down to like, I mean, Tessa does like journaling with them during their PBT classes, takes time to just talk about like real life human things. And I mean, I'll be honest, I've had days where I walked in the studio and I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this. And I'll walk out and Tessa, I'm like, get in class because I don't want to be in there. It came to a point where I had to own up to like, yeah, is that the most like, I wouldn't say not appropriate thing, but it's like, was that the best reaction for myself? So I started to own as a person.
Own your
And so
own behavior.
Yeah.
You're more or less. Yeah. And I've been that way too, where you're ready to lose it. And
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we've all been there, and you sometimes just have to walk away and refocus. And
Yes.
sometimes I have to say to myself, you know, is this the most mature reaction I can be demonstrating to my
Absolutely.
kids? Right. That's
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going back to the comment that that's all just awesome, Ben. I love hearing that. And kids have changed, I feel, but
Yes.
you know, since COVID, I think we're all dealing with that, but I still feel kids want to be good. And, you know, I feel when I hear the stuff about I was reading that they get frustrated sometimes when they get pushed really hard. And I think for me, what has worked is going back to the culture and having kids help push kids. So sometimes what you need to do is separate those kids out that are your diehards, you know, your kids are the ones that would eat, sleep, and drink, dance. Have them help pull the other ones, kind of kicking and screaming. I don't really mean that, but sometimes you have to reset. I do a lot behind the scenes with my leaders, and they're not, maybe you do that too. They're not maybe leaders with a name or a label like captain, but they're the ones that care. They're the ones that are willing to be pushed and want to be good. And the other thing that I think I do, I mean, I kind of chuckle when I listen to when you guys started because I'm so damn old. That it's funny, but you know, kids are kids. I don't think, you know, I think that we as the leaders need to figure out how hard to push them. And I love that you're imparting life lessons. That's so important. And all that is important, but I still, like, I read on some of these Facebooks and people are saying, oh, our kids don't want to be pushed. And somebody said the other day, you can't teach them tightness and how to push hard. And I'm like, yeah, you can. I feel like you can teach it, but you know, it's funny because I use this a lot, but I had a acro teacher at our studio, a gymnastics teacher, and he was 75 and he couldn't do it anymore. He had award-winning gymnastics program at our high school, and I had him come in and just do it a couple days a week. And I said, Dave, how do you get them to do this when you can't do it? And he goes, you teach one. And then that one teaches everyone else. And I've used that a lot for a lot of my thought process, is that you get one to do it and it's going to spread to the other kids. And just as negativity spreads, which is not a good thing, you know, I would say one bad apple spoils the whole bunch, but you get a couple of great apples and that's going to spread to your whole bunch too. So I think when you're trying to inspire that, oh, and I kind of got off track. I think something that people don't do enough as coaches is talk to the kids. The whys. Why are we doing this? Why are we making you do it again over and over and over? Because we're trying to achieve this and we're trying to achieve that. And, you know, I'm in a position right now with just winning state that you know, we hadn't won state for 25 years and we won this year. And I'm trying to put my finger on what was different, you know, and I think what was one thing that was different is we knew we had the dance, like the choreography. We just knew we had it. And I think our kids knew that. So it made them push harder because they knew they could maybe achieve what they wanted to achieve. And I always use this saying, if people think something is either more likely or less likely to occur, they act in a manner to either make it happen or make it not happen. And and that's so true. Like if you think there is no way you're going to win something, you don't put in the effort.
Don't put any, yeah.
No, you just don't put in the effort. And, I remember someone coming to our practice once, and she had coached in the Metro, and she happened to be up in Brainerd. And she said, when I walk in, I just feel this difference that your kids think they're eventually going to be great. They think they're eventually going to make it, so I think that mindset, Tiffany, with your kids, when you're trying to, change that culture, the mindset is what you have to work on the most.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have a great teacher that's, willing to drill it. And, okay, let's just talk drilling a little bit. Like I watch some people at competitions and they just put it on from beginning to end. And I'm sitting there going, no, 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 no. Let's break it down into manageable sections and let's get good. And something else I would say is try to have people come in and watch from another, either alumni, or I know this year when we were sitting with our routine that we love so much, how do we keep it going? So we brought in different people to come in and watch practice and make it more exciting. And guess what happens? They try a little harder when that person person is watching. So that would be other advice. So pipe in. I don't mean to sit and give
No, you're great.
a monologue.
For us, we have a system where Ben will set choreography and then I'll come in and I will clean. And the kids just kind of know, they're like, this is Miss Tessa time. And so they kind of like buckle up and they're like, we're ready. But this is just a system that, and I think it helps so much too, Cindy, with the alumni or with just the culture that has been built, because they know, like, once the choreography set, like this is like cleaning time, this is go time. And then when I get my eyes on it, we also have a small staff. And so, well, it's about 10, 10 wide. But like between ballet and our acro and things like that. But, we all have different eyes and we've all had different experiences. Yeah. We've all different experiences. And so the way that I clean is definitely different than the way that our other staff, Miss Nora, cleans. And she has, a dance degree from New York. So it's like, there's different experiences, but with that, it's like, we do break it down into smaller sections, but also taking it from top to bottom, but then also working backwards. I know this is a newer thing that we started implementing, but we take it in A, B, and C sections. And then the C section is kind of that final push of your dance. We often say like final push, final push. And so in that C section, it's kind of like, it's the hardest part. I think it's just that final push. It's that section where the kids kind of start to get sloppy. Their muscles disengage. Their minds start to check out. And so we have a lot of like sayings. We have like a mind over body, which one of our coaches used to say all the time, one of my high school dance team coaches, mind over body. And so once that switch happens of like, my body wants to give up so hard, like your body is literally fatigued, you've been working on this for hours. Once your mind gets to switch that and say, no, like my mind is so much powerful than my body is telling me right now, we're going to push through and we're going to say this mind over body in this C section.
That is so true. Yeah.
And so I think that's something that has worked really well for us. But just like getting the choreographer in there or whoever's going to set that, have them step away for a minute, have somebody else come in.
I love it because can't, I know myself, I get bored very easily. And I would need, the season is long, especially, the season is long. And so to keep it coming, I love having other people come in. I think that's so fun. And you know what? They always see something that you don't see too.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And they might say one thing that's going to connect with your kids to make them work harder. And sometimes you got to pay these people to come in and sometimes you can just have alumni or a fellow, with our network, sometimes our directors will switch programs. I'll go watch yours if you watch mine, if you have a friend that you can associate with, or, this year, I was lucky that So Maggie Velasco, she's friends with Travis Cahill. I know you know who Travis Cahill is.
Yeah.
So she got Travis to come into our practice, and I think our kids thought that they had died and gone to heaven.
So cool.
And they have never worked so hard. But Maggie, she has a daughter at our studio, and she used to coach at Maple Grove and Burnsville. She was on Burnsville, I believe. So she has a lot of history, and she came in and watched a couple practices, and just sometimes the way that she said it made my kids respond differently. It obviously things I know and that you know, but sometimes hearing it from someone else. So I think that's one big takeaway from this talk. So Tiffany, what else? Like, would you say you're still in the process of building your kids' culture to want to be highly competitive?
I think they want to. I think my main question what I was
Getting it?
struggling with when I put this post out there was I guess too, as a studio owner, trying to understand, you know, like so some of the complaints or whatever that I heard after working the other night with the kids, working with this teacher, were just you know, Miss so and so's no fun anymore. Miss she is like, we don't want to take her class next year. You know, is she gonna be mean today or nice today? You know, like and this teacher is a beloved teacher at our studio. And she's good. I mean, she's a good teacher. She's a competition judge, and so I think she knows like what she wants and what they need. But I don't know, because I didn't dance at this level as a dancer when I was young. I danced, but I didn't dance at this kind of level that our kids are at. And so I don't always know as a studio owner, because like when I talk to this teacher, you know, she'll just say things like kind of like you guys were saying, you know, whenever I say like, well, can you do a private another time? Like 9 o'clock is too late. You know, she's like, I was in the studio from, you know, like the time I got. So she's kind of like a little bit old school in that, like she doesn't have much mercy, I guess, for kids. And so I don't always know, like, okay, do I need to just support her in that and be like, yep, that's how it is? Or because I tend to have a little bit more compassion for the kids. So
you need that balance. I think,
how much should I allow her to just continue like pushing? And when do I need to, you know, advise her a little differently, I guess.
Okay. I've got to think for a second. I think I for
don't know what it's like to have a team that, like, how hard you can push and
you can push hard. I think you can push pretty darn hard, you know, and I think you bring it back to the kids again and say to them, I was never at your level. And I just want, you know what might be really cool is to get some high level kids from other teams and bring a Zoom together of the kids.
Yes, I've thought about that. I think that's what we need.
Oh, I can do that for sure. And it'd be fun. I did it one summer with captains. Oh my gosh, we couldn't turn it off. I mean, like they kept talking and talking. So it took a while to get going, but I think talking about the whys and if you bring them to competition and they see other levels that they want to achieve, I think that's important too. And I mean, I guess there's a lot of studios that don't have competition, and I totally support that too. It's a different, you know, we have a lot of rec teams and they thrive at our studio, but I do think you have to have a level where kids want to push and it's culture change. It might be, you know, like she's saying she was there till that late. She probably was a kid that was, you know, we have kids that are at the studio 6 days a week. And then on Sunday, they're in there practicing their solos. So it ends up being 7 days a week. You know, our kids train, you know, somebody said, oh my gosh, how do you guys, I'm like, okay, in the summer, they weight lift twice a week. They take LA twice a week. In the summer, they take our dance class with the coaches twice a week. You know, they're in the summer and they're probably in the studio 6-7 days not 6-7 days. I mean to say hours, you know, they're taking a lot of hours, and then they go to camp. Some of them go to 2 camps, you know, so it is, but then from the other side, if you offer the rec classes for the kids that don't want to, they want to be in, you know, basketball, or they want to be in volleyball and they still want to dance a little bit. If you offer that, that's great, because I feel like you have two kinds of students. Well, many more than two kinds, but you know what I'm saying? You need to provide a rec environment for those that don't want to be the diehards. But then if you're trying to get to a certain level at your studio, you got to push, you know, I mean, I feel like you do. So
yeah, I think they do want to be, you know, like sometimes even there's like I have an older dancer this year that's a sophomore, and you know, there was a murmuring that she wanted to go to the studio that we always see winning at competition, you know, and it's like I just met with her and just kind of talking about it and like what, you know, what do you feel like you're missing? And I asked her, I was like, you know, I think if you went to that studio, you know, you probably would do better, because I think you would push yourself harder. And I said, do you agree with me? Do you agree that if you went there, you would push harder? And she's like, yeah. And so, you know, I think it's just for some reason, we're just at that, like trying to get over that hump. Like,
you are, I can tell you're just on the ready to unleash your kids and have them go to that next level. I can just tell. But I think you did the right thing talking with her. You know, you did the right thing talking with her, because, you know, I would say lack of communication is filled in with negativity, you know, and when you're trying to build that business too, you don't want them to go to the studio down the street. You're going to have that happen, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to talk to them, and you know, you said something that I say a lot when you said, would you push yourself harder if you were with that other group? And I'll say that to our kids too. Like, if you were on Eastview, that's our big competitor, would you be trying harder? If you were standing next to kids from Wayzata, would you be trying harder? And you don't want to say yes. You want to be like, no, I'm trying my hardest right now. But act the way that you want to be, and then you're going to get there. If you know, I know, like my daughter, when she was in high school, she was probably the best one on our team. And when she got on camp staff, everybody was the best person from their team, you know, on the camp staff. So what do? You bump up a level, because and she realized inadvertently, you realize I wasn't maxing out how good I could have been. You know, so I think sometimes a neat thing to do is maybe bring in kids from other studios, or bring them somewhere where they have to push a little harder, and they'll find out what's in there. The other thing that
I think these other kids just become that good, you know, it's like they need to hear from a kid from that studio to say, like, are you kidding me? Like, you only have to be here 3 days a week and you're expecting to win.
Yeah, you're not gonna, a lot of people want to be champions without wanting to put the work in. And there's a lot of dark days, you know, where you're pushing hard when you don't feel like it. And I feel like that's where I feel the motivation that you give the kids is the number one thing you can do at your studio. You can have tech, everything, but you gotta teach them to want it and to have that push. So you were going to say something, Ben.
Yeah. I guess we were kind of talking about earlier about the studio culture of it. I know, like, with the first probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 years, we were like, okay, like we're doing the things, we're doing these steps, we're, you know, doing how everyone else would do it. And then when we got to the point in that shift of like, what do we want for our program? It's our program. We have to make that choice ourselves. Everyone else is doing something different, and that's okay. But we want to be something that we can offer people that isn't, you know, and parents come in all the time when we tell them, we're like, this might not be the best fit for you. And that's okay. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So we lead with that as what we want to stay true to as our brand and what we're trying to build. And so I think it was after COVID, it was the year after COVID, we were like, there was a weird dynamic, kind of weird shift. We took accountability for like things that we were doing that maybe like wasn't the best in the sense of like business aspect things. And so what we did is we did a giant parent survey, and we were like, at the end of the season, and it was like, what competitions did you like? What conventions you want to travel to? Where do you want to go out of state for nationals? Do you like having ballet on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays? Do you like having them on whatever? And more so giving them, and like we tell our parents, we will hear you out, but we aren't always going to take that suggestion, but we still want to hear you. So like that for us, when we did that, it was like
big eye opener,
that shifted our whole, like, just what we wanted to. I mean, we got to see a different perspective of it. But I think seeing what because the kids go home and they talk to their parents. So obviously
and they're paying for it. They're your
exactly,
clients.
yeah.
And I think a lot of studios forget they're your clients. You need to listen to them. You need, I mean, you got to, at the end of the day, you still have to do what you feel is right, but you want to get feedback, you know, you really want to, they're your clients. And I think that's, so that's a good idea to get parent feedback. Yeah, for sure.
And then the dancers go home, and then it's like, we told our parents, like, include your dancers in on this to the extent that you want them to be. So they got to kind of choose their narrative with what they wanted for the answers and the responses. And the kids would, like, it kind of got them talking about, like, oh, like, they're talking about a convention, they're talking about traveling, or they're talking about that. Kind of sparks like another thing for them, in the sense of, like, I mean, obviously follow through is, like, it's another part of it. So if that is something that you're serious about, obviously put it in the survey. But I think the biggest thing was when we started to give the kids more of, like, I guess, control over their narrative, is when things started to shift. So, like, you know, whether it was a parent survey, and this is just like what we've done recently, and it's kind of worked for us. This is very kind of sporadic, but we do, I don't set all my pieces right away. I don't start in September and say, here are my dances. So the first, like, 3 to 4 months is, like, strictly just training, like technique, PBT, acro, all these things. And then it's go time, and, like, industry standard. I mean, like, I danced for Pulse growing up. I still travel and dance. I teach all over. Like, I tell the kids, I'm like, I take my kids with me and do, like, obviously also choreography, and they're used to just being like, I'm like, okay, arm here, go, go, go. And then all of a sudden they're, like, hitting it. And there's, like, no, there's not a misstep. There's nothing. Like, the standard isn't that you should be learning choreography. The standard is that you should just catch on to it. Like, the minute and teaching wise too, we told the kids this when I started. I was like, I think everyone's like, well, how do you get the kids to do this? Or how do you, and I wouldn't give them the question of, like, can you try and do that? I'm like, okay, I want you to go here. Like, my confidence and my tone of how I teach has to be like, I need you to do this, and I need you to do this. Okay, I need you to do 4 pirouettes on. Oh, you don't have it? Okay, we'll get it. Keep going. Like, just keep moving forward.
Yeah, you don't always. You don't let them complain. You don't let them, you know.
There's not a room for, like, there's not room for it. I think they get to the point too where,
like, how your typical class, like, we have a hip hop class, say, of, like, a group of, like, 18. What does that look like? So from September to whatever, you do just strictly training, and then you started, and, like, how long are those classes, and how many classes does it take to, like, learn the choreo?
Yeah. So what we do, okay, so, like, let's say, for example, just for our hip hop, like, we have a couple of different hip hop teams. For our company, so, like, Group Hip Hop, it's our oldest one. September through end of November, I would say mid-December, we just do combos and phrase work. So I kind of test out the waters with, like, more of, like, labbing ideas. So it's more so, like, then I kind of get the kids, like, asking, like, oh, is this going to be our dance? And I'm like, no, this is just a combo. And then, like, you know, just
you see what they're interested in.
And so it kind of helps you refocus what they, you know, as you're drawing your narrative, you're allowing them to kind of guess and figure out what they want to do for theirs. And so it's kind of like this back and forth game, and then it creates more of a fun environment. So I'm, like, dancing full out with my kids when it comes to, like, whether it's hip hop or contemporary or whatever. And the kids love that, because it's more, and I'll call out groups. I'm like, okay, let's do this more of, like, a combo class, convention style class, and it gives them, you know, the skills of pick up on retaining choreography, adding textures in there instead of just waiting to clean it to have those moments and things like that. So that for us through on December before break is usually where we hit that. And then we get into break, and then we come back from break, and we do choreography weekends. So we'll do, like,
we do it so differently. That's fine. I mean, everybody's different. Like, at our studio, we have we have a Halloween show for our little kids.
Yes.
So they're getting out there early, you know, for our littles. But then for our older kids, we do a holiday show in December. Or we do it Thanksgiving weekend. So our kids, it's probably similar but different. They do, like, for hip hop, for example, because hip hop would be a hard one to keep them going all year. You can't be, you know, I mean, you can be doing across the floor hip hop technique, but for us, we do a routine that's what am I trying to say? Like a production number at the holiday show. So each group section is shorter, but it gets them out there performing, and it'll be like, you know, so we do it differently, but they're still pushing all year. And Okay, so the last thing and I want to make sure, Tiffany, if you have any more questions, but one of the things you had in there was how to keep it fun. And, you know, you were saying, Ben, how you do it with them and they like it. That's one example is you have to be a fun teacher and make it fun. And I think that's one of the things we forget a lot is, you know, yeah, it's hard work, but you can be funny when you're teaching. I always go, someone asked, how do you keep your practices fun? And I'm like, well, we have Allie with us and she's hilarious. And so all of a sudden she's talking in British accent and pretty soon she, you know, she just does weird stuff and they love it. But I think how you say things keeps it fun too. I mean, I think the pressure you put on them can be done in a positive way and not have to be, you know, I look at some coaches, I've watched practices where I'm like, oh, no. It's like, you got to get this. You guys suck. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I would never say that. You know, I would probably say, ooh, you guys, we got a lot of work to do. Let's pull together and get this. And I always put me in the mix, like because you don't ever say you look terrible. Because if they look terrible, you look terrible too. You taught, you know, take that ownership of the class. And so that's like when sometimes, and I mean, everybody has their moments where you get angry, but you have to learn to reel it in. And I know with our coaching staff, you know, sometimes another person takes the lead at that point. Like you need to do that. But Tiffany, any other questions on this? Like, where are you going to go from here?
Yeah. So just back to, you said you were doing choreography. So then you go to choreography weekends. And what does that look like? How long are those sessions? And then what is the rest of and then like, when is your first comp?
Yeah. So we do, when did I think we started the hip hop. I think it was at like Jane, I would say like mid.
I feel like after we come
back after, it was like right before Thanksgiving break is where we started to do we had a weekend, we got into the studio, and for me, like it's different. There's times like I'm like, oh, maybe I just want to hit half of the dance this weekend, and so like I'll plan obviously quarterly. We usually like 4 choreography weekends throughout there, moving until like year I guess before, because our first competition this year was where we just 2 weeks, my gosh, February 2 weeks ago. And so like what happened, so like for example, we did that, we set the choreography, I finished the hip hop dance, it was like great. The kids had their showcase, which was I think the first weekend in February, which is like some places call it pre-comp, but we just call it showcase where the kids are at.
Like a send off with a crowd, you mean, kind of like?
We do like a judging panel.
So we bring in people from like, whether it's like that are local in the industry, whether my friends in town teaching, I have them come in. It just depends on the time of year, but we'll do that showcase. And then from there, like what happened this year was we did the showcase. I set the choreography. It usually takes me about 6 hours to do like a full group piece, just like really, and that's more time than I allot for. I just make sure I have enough time just so the kids can feel like I'm giving every percentage of whether it's a transition or adding textures or layers or more things in there. And so 6 hours is usually ideal. So we'll do one day, the kids come in on a Friday and they'll do like 3 hours, and we'll tackle it right away Saturday morning, so their brains are still going kind of in that sense, and we'll finish it off. But this year, like for example, kind of talking about like why we start our dances later and the retaining choreography stuff is like we got the piece out there. I saw him in costume, and I was like, during showcase, I looked at Tessa and I was like, I'm cutting this dance. I was like, I don't like it. It's not the kids. It's my choreography. We had 2.5, 3 weeks, and so I literally got the kid. I was like, hey guys, we're learning a whole new dance, and it turned out to be the best dance. And they were so excited. For it because they didn't feel it. They were like, yeah, it feels good, but then it was like the excitement of like, okay, we compete in 2 weeks. So the standard for me that I'm setting for you guys is you get this dance, you retain the choreography, you get a new costume, and we go on stage. And they were like, okay, like there's not I didn't give them time to think about it. And like we had a couple new girls, we had like two or three new girls on that group, on that company this year that we got this season. And so like we were like, this is a big test of time for us. Like if this culture that we're supposedly building sticks, it's going to reflect on the new kids. And so we got the new kids in, and like our olders, our team leaders, all these people that came in that were like, this is like, we just came off of winning Intensity Nationals in Tennessee against like a studio that had like 600 plus kids, and we only have 50. Like we don't have a ton. So for us, we're like, okay, we're gonna show up. It's quality over quantity. So like the kids that come and go, we're like, okay, if they leave, this wasn't the right fit for them. But our kids that are here are our focus, and these are the ones who want to work hard. So we almost pour like I always tell my kids, I'm like, my favorite dancer is the one who works hard. Cause there's always like, who's my favorite dancer? Who's my favorite dancer? And I'm like,
You have a favorite.
And then we're like, I do have favorites. My favorites are the ones that work hard and that want to train.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Today, Tessa might be my favorite. Tomorrow, someone else might be my favorite. But in this moment, I'm my favorite. So I'm going to hone in on this and I'm going to let you guys take what you want from it. And so, but yeah, for choreography, I think that's just been like the biggest thing is like I think the training and the retaining and the technique and those things build, it's like this, like almost like we say like pimple that's about at the top and they're like getting there and we're like, and so like they get almost more anxious when they get closer to it, but it's not really an anxious feeling. It's more so they're set excitement and but they're retraining their brains. And the way that the kids work now is like that excitement can become anxiety. And it's like that's not always the narrative. You have to, you know, like we always say, like you have to take control of your narrative. So for example, when the kids get to that point of like that pimple popping, we're like, oh, here's your dance. And then we don't let them think about it and it just keeps moving forward. And it's so weird. We always say it always works out whenever we're like, you know, get close to comp or you get close to whether it's sections or something. You're like, we have a whole new section. Well, at this point, they're going to know it or they're not, you know, like we always say, like, if they don't know it by now, they're not going to know it.
When you're at the competition and there's people like running the dance over and over and you get so freaked out, or like the week of competition and you're like, well, if you don't have it now, like you most like
focus on warm-ups.
Yeah, that could be a whole other topic. Well, it would.
Yes.
It should be like anxiety at competition and how to fuel that adrenaline.
Yep.
You said one thing that I resonated with me, something about the standard, because that's my big line is the standard is the standard. Like at our practices, the standard of what we will settle for or what we will strive for is our standard, and what we will put on the floor is our standard. And we have a big sign in our practice room, a big poster that says that. And I feel like the kids need to know that too. The standard, like for instance, if you're going to dance, you know, varsity or elite at the studio, because, you know, I have a studio, wear both hats. You know, the elite level, you have to have a certain level of skills to be able to be on that. You can't be on without putting the work in. Well, kind of like what you were saying, Tiffany, is if you were at another studio, would you be working hard? What is this harder? What is the standard for your elite team? What is the standard for your top level kids? And they have to want to put that time in outside to get to that level. So the last thing before we close, because this is getting long, we can talk all day, but the fun aspect, anything that you struggle with there, Tiffany, like the fun, keeping it fun? Or
not really. I mean, I think we do a pretty good job. I think just right now it's not fun because I think, you know, I mean, I know I've read all the tricks and, you know, ways to do it to make it, you know, to get them to do choreography over and over again, but also make it fun. But, you know, I think, so I think we're good on that.
Good.
So
has this helped you at all?
Yes. Could I just ask one more question? So we started, I love what you guys just said, because we started last year teaching choreography in August, and that was new for us, but our thing was like, we need more time. But I feel that it's too much.
They're burnt out.
And so I love what you were saying, because I feel like the kids get bored with the choreography. And then it's like, we can't get any more out of them. It doesn't matter how many times we do it, because it's like it's just stale.
They're done. They're done.
So thank you for that.
No, of course, we just started doing, like, even I told the kids last week, I'm like, I have this idea. I was like, I want you guys to be giant like dust clouds of like for a jazz dance. And they were like, whoa, that's so, and like in my brain I'm just like racking ideas of concepts and all these things. And they were like, I'm like, yeah, I'll probably start a piece in like a couple weeks. And they're like, okay. So I'll message the parents. And I'm like, hey, who wants to do whatever? And so we'll get kids that will opt into doing that. And then I'm like, then I have a whole new piece. So my brain's going. So I'm like, okay, I have a concept. Instead of waiting until next year, obviously it's not always, but we build that into our contracts. We tell the parents like, this could happen, just budget accordingly. And so one of those situations, I have a piece, I have an idea, and the kids are like amped about it. And like even them running their dances with Tessa, we have competition today, but they all of a sudden like, I go in and like now that whole narrative is switched. All these kids are like dancing crazy full out. And I'm like, I'm almost like kind of taken back. I'm like, okay, so we're excited because they want to be in this new piece. So they're even like now there's another incentive that makes them excited, whether it is a new solo or, you know, a new group piece or whatever. But one thing I did want to just say before, I think this has changed our trajectory a lot for a lot of things, is like taking ownership in front of the kids, in the sense of like, if I have a moment where I have that, you know, and obviously this is per teacher, but Tessa and I, like, if I walk away, I'll, whether it's being like I leave or whatever, I come back the next day, I've reflected, and I'll tell the kids, like, that was not the best reaction, and I do apologize for that. But moving forward, this needs to be our standard together. And that has been a big thing. Like, yeah, just telling them, like, them owning that as a human. Like, I have seen more like turn around for my kids being like, like maybe walking in being like, it's not a day for me. And I've had, you know, I didn't want to get out of bed this morning. I barely wanted to go to the gym. Like, this is real life stuff that I deal with, that it's, you guys also may deal with. And so, like, if I can make it as related without there's a boundary, obviously, but like, today's not my day, and that's okay. And if it's your day, I'm here for you, but just know, for me, I'm not really here for myself, but I showed up for you guys because I want to be here versus I have to be here. And so that, owning that as a person and from a personal standpoint,
it helps them level
head with them, with us, and with themselves. Like, okay, today's not their day, but I'm here, so I showed up. What can I do from their standpoint? So that's been really huge. I think just owning who we are as people, because as artists and as creatives, we, you know, there's a business standpoint we have to look from, but there's also a point where, like, integrity of what I do and what I teach, that I want to also make sure is taught, and, you know, to my kids. Like I said, I have kids in Boston, New York, that I'm like, okay, you guys are doing this. Like, they call me and they're like, we did this today in X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, okay, that little glimpse of like rehearsal last year at 10 p.m. at night somehow bled off into the industry for them, and seeing them now working, it's like, that for me is all I needed, you know. But it was more the personal reflection and being like, this is not my day, or I am having a moment, I apologize. I want you guys to know this is where I'm coming from, and like kind of reeling it back and taking a different tone to it. Because as teachers, my tone's always up here. I'm going like a million miles an hour, and the kids are like, so having to reel it back, that's a skill that I think everyone can just use on a day-to-day basis. But putting it into a teaching standpoint has been really helpful for us and what we do, and with our kids too. So that's just kind of what we do. So
did that answer that, Tiffany?
I don't know if that, I was like,
I love it. I think we've touched on so many great things. You know, I think our goal has to always be to strive to be a better teacher, strive to be a better business owner, but we're people, you know. And I think, you know, if I do something that's not my best self, I try to apologize. I think that that teaches them a lot. It teaches them that you're human too, you know. So, well, everybody, thank you so very much. This was great. We got to do it again, because I feel like a lot of great things came out of it. So good luck at your competition today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
We're going to Legacy at Roy Wilkins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's our next one is the big event. We have that coming for Hall of Fame. Same Roy Wilkins. So we're able to kind of test the waters and like staging and that kind of stuff. So it's nice to just get the kids on stage again and just see what we gotta do. And then we'll probably change giant sections of dance. I just always do that. I'm like, I don't like this part. Let's just rip it out.
We do that a lot. We do that a lot. I think the kids like it. Creative. Oh yeah. It amps them up. I know last year here we go. I'm said to wrap it up.
No, I know. It's okay.
I know last year when we were doing a dance, we did a Gaga number, and we just kept adding things to it. But the newness of it, like we'd edit out a part and add it in, it kept them on their toes, you know. So that's well, thank you, everybody. Tiffany and Tessa and Ben, thank you so much for being on this. We appreciate it. Have a great day. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you.